Can I ask one very big basic question? You know, you've been involved with national security, international organisations. Does the average Briton, seeing a story like this, have the right to feel very badly let down?
Well, I'm not surprised by the story. I mean, I don't think it's been formally confirmed, but given that there was something like 45,000 migrants coming across the Channel in small boats last year, the fact that 19 of them might pose a potential security threat is not at all surprising to me. As you've just mentioned, back in 2015, ISIS were deliberately using the migration crisis to send potential operatives into Europe to cause problems. Now, happily, a lot has changed for the positive since 2015, and actually since sort of 2017, 2018, we've been relatively well protected from terrorist incidents in this country, mercifully, with a lot of potential threats having been thwarted by the intelligence agencies and law enforcement. But unfortunately, we're in a situation now where it is proving very difficult to process quickly and deport those who do not deserve to have political asylum in this country. And that's obviously something that Rishi Sunak, the Conservative government's been very exercised about and is trying to do something about with the illegal migration bill. But of course, that faces a lot of legal and parliamentary challenges before it is enacted.
But isn't the real problem here, and I've seen this for myself out there on the 12-mile line, isn't the real problem here that many of these young men throw their documents and their iPhones into the sea, and actually it's a devil of a job to identify who they really are?
Absolutely, and many of them pretend to come from countries from which they don't actually come. And it's difficult to identify that and find out exactly who they are. I mean, that has been a challenge for many years for Border Force and the Home Office. But of course, all people who arrive in this country illegally, they are fingerprinted. And the reason that one can say that there are potentially these 19 people is because one can track those fingerprints against different international databases. And therefore, you get some idea of who these people might be. It could be the tip of the iceberg, but I think this sounds like, to me, a sort of number that one might expect, given, as I say, 45,000 people arrived this way just last year.
Well, it's 19 too many as far as I'm concerned, but you were there. You were working on our behalf at the United Nations, and of course, back in 1951, we drew up a definition of who should or should not qualify as a refugee. That seems to have extended massively to people coming from any area that's affected by war, even those coming from extreme forms of poverty. Is it time to redefine who might qualify as a refugee and get it back to the basic principles that it was men and women in fear of their lives, in fear of their liberty, because of their thoughts, their views, their associations?
Absolutely. I think there is a need to look again at the convention and how it operates, but there's a number of issues here. I remember I served in Pakistan, Nigel, back in the 1980s, and many people from Pakistan came to the UK and claimed political asylum. And I was asked, as a member of the embassy in Islamabad, to say, would these people really be persecuted if they were returned to Pakistan? And in many cases, what I found was that no one had really heard of them in Pakistan, and so they probably weren't at risk when they left Pakistan. But then they came to the UK and they jumped up and down outside the embassy in London saying death to Zia, who was the president and the dictator at the time. And of course, that did bring them to the attention of the authorities in Pakistan. So that was one particular sort of problem. Another problem is that the convention was based on the idea that once you reached the first safe haven, the first safe country, you should apply for asylum then. And I think the frustration of many people in this country about the particular small boats coming across the channel is they're manifestly not coming from a dangerous country. They're coming from France. But instead of applying for asylum in France, they come to the UK, maybe because they've got relatives or they speak English and not French, a number of reasons. Maybe it's our benefit system. There may be a number of different reasons, but the reality is they're leaving a country where they are safe and coming to the United Kingdom and claiming asylum. And I think it's that aspect of the 1951 convention that people find very frustrating.